Good evening and welcome back. Happy New Year. This is another episode of Tuesday Night Talk with Executive Director Lee Reed and myself, Melissa Jean Baptiste, the Communication Specialist for the Atlanta Citizens Review Board. Now, if you are not familiar with the Atlanta Citizen Review Board and what we do, I'm going to hand it over to our host and Executive Director Lee Reed to go ahead and give you that intro, and we'll get into tonight's topic.
Thank you, Melissa. Welcome everyone to another Tuesday Night Talks. Well, the Atlanta Citizen Review Board is an independent investigative agency of the city of Atlanta. It was created in 2007 after the death of Miss Katherine Johnson in 2006. Citizens rose up and said enough was enough, and they wanted something different. So what came out of that was the creation of this independent investigative agency. We can receive, investigate, mediate, adjudicate complaints against citizens, against Atlanta police and corrections officers. And we have our board, which also reviews these complaints, make the decisions on the complaints, and then they're forwarded to the police department. So tonight we have a special guest. Our guest is Dr. Michael Turner. And he's been, well, actually, yes. Michael Turner was appointed with the ACRB on his three-year term on January 21st, 2020, representing the Atlanta Business League. So, Michael, we're glad to have you on this podcast tonight. And I'm going to turn it back over to Melissa real quick so she can give us some information about how people are appointed to the board. And then we'll proceed into our conversation with you. Oh, I think she froze.
Thank you, Lee. And thank you so much, Mr. Turner, for joining us tonight. So just to get us started on the Meet the Board, well, we've been continuing our Meet the Board segment, and we just have about 2 more episodes in. This is one of the last ones that we'll be doing. It came about, the 2007 ordinance that Lee referred to in the beginning that started the ACRB pretty much laid down the foundation of the members that would join the ACRB and what it would look like. It's currently comprised of 15 members, and we are currently waiting 1 member to on there. We have a total of 50. We have 1 more joining us at this time. We also currently have 2 more seats that are vacant, 1 for the youth 18 to 30, and then we also have the NPU A through F seat that we're looking to fill as well. So before we get into the conversation and really getting into what motivated Michael Turner into joining the ACRB and becoming a member, we want to give you the opportunity to give us just a little background about yourself and to get the community familiar with you.
Well, good evening,
Michael,
and happy new. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening and happy new year to the viewers and listeners and citizens. Again, I am Michael Turner, and it is truly a privilege to be with you this evening. As in addition to the information that's already been shared, I will just tell you that I am a proud graduate of Clark Atlanta University with undergraduate and graduate matriculation, and am very thankful to have the opportunity to serve and support the citizens on a daily basis. I enjoy the opportunity to read and travel. Of course, right now, some of that is restricted, but I look forward to the opportunity in the near future to resume some of those favorite activities. And hopefully I'll have the opportunity to see you out there at some point as well.
Right.
Well, Michael, thank you for taking the time to joining us tonight. You know, as a AUC grad myself from Morehouse, it's always good to be able to talk to another AUC grad. You know, so
yes.
With that said, what made you want to become a member of the ACRB, of the Atlanta Citizen Review Board?
Well, I have always had a great appreciation and respect for law enforcement and the people who have been selected to serve in those critical roles. And at the same time, I've also wanted to understand the various administrative processes that go into uh, governing law enforcement, because we know and recognize that it's important to have systems in place that provide governance, which ensures appropriate behaviors, appropriate actions, and treatment of those who are involved, and in this case, our citizens. And so the ACRB has been a great opportunity to um, learn more from both vantage points, from multiple lenses, the administration of law enforcement, as well as the governance, and ensuring that we have degrees of responsibility within the roles and accountability for actions and behaviors that occur.
One of the things you had mentioned when you were talking earlier was about being able to serve every day. And I can't recall right now if you had mentioned this, but in your everyday work, well, I know, and the audience probably doesn't know, that you are the Director of Student Relations at Morehouse, and from your vantage point, how does your service on the board, speaks to the service to the AUC Center, to these youth who come to Atlanta or live in Atlanta that go to the AUC, and how they interrelate?
Well, I will say that I truly love the work that I am blessed to be a part of on a daily basis in supporting the students of Morehouse College, as well as the Atlanta University Center Consortium. And my experiences with the ACRB really allows me the opportunity to share important insight with my students, and colleagues for that matter, about what one should expect when engaging a law enforcement agency, as well as a law enforcement agent in particular. Understanding that everyone has rights, and also helping everyone to understand that they have a responsibility to uphold the laws that exist. Keeping in mind that law enforcement agents and agencies are in place to protect the community and to uphold the laws that exist. So making sure and helping, various stakeholders of the community to understand those dynamics is very important for me, because I want to ensure that my students are equipped with the proper knowledge, skills, and disposition to govern themselves accordingly in any situation.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I mean, I certainly agree with you on that. Being able to spread the awareness of the agency and being able to educate citizens on what proper interactions look like, and should you or a citizen have a question or concern, they have a place to be able to go to address that, because they have that concern addressed. And that's valuable in these times. I mean, so we encourage all citizens to know about the ACRB and to be educated about interactions with police and know where to file a complaint or even a question if you have a concern about what an officer has done when you engage with that officer. So, as I mentioned earlier, board members review our investigations, the staff investigations, and make those decisions. But then there's training that comes with it, and there's the dialogue and the discussions with the board members and those things that go about when we're thinking about making decisions on these complaints, that whole process. For you, and when you look at your experience in dealing with the board and being on the board, what's one of those um, examples of the experience that you've had being on the board that sort of like resonates for you that you want to share with the listening audience?
Well, first, I must first acknowledge the administrative staff of the ACRB, because the amount of work and detail that goes into investigating and generating the reports that board members receive for review is extensive and very much so admirable. Their dedication shows in the work that they produce in the reports and investigations. I would say, going back to my experience with the board, I would say one of the most important elements that I always bring to the table in any given situation, circumstance, case, what have you, is being open-minded to understand that there are that I was not necessarily on the scene, but the reports put me at the scene, if you will. It allows me to have a front row seat of what happened. But at the same time, always governing with an open mind to make sure that I'm looking at every single angle of a case, because we have to keep in mind that there are serious implications related to based upon the board's review and any outcomes that are developed. So always having that open-minded approach to understanding and being willing to understand what occurred at that scene or in that moment. And also utilizing the voice and voices of fellow board members during our, during board meetings to understand their questions and points, and taking all of that information into consideration when making a final decision. Those are the most important and critical elements that I want to bring to the table on each case.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. When we think about, well, let me go into this. As being a board member, let's see, you've been on going on 2 years now. I think it's been what, 2 years now, huh?
Yes, sir.
And okay. And so now you in the middle of your service on the board, comparing what you when you started to where you are now, what would you like to see what would you like to be able to accomplish being a member of the board?
I think that, and I appreciate that question. And I think that is being one of the areas that I would like to see developed is actually has been put in place by your administration through the various committees that have been developed for the board in terms of policy, training, systems. I think is one of the most important elements of any organization, because the systems are going to exist far long after the individuals have their terms, have finished their service and moved on to other endeavors and activities. So having those committees, having those experiences in place, which allow for the development and improvement of systems is very important. And that's what I look forward to continued participation in. And I certainly look forward to leaving a favorable mark in those areas that can be carried on for those board members of the future.
Great, great, great. Uh, now, when you are looking at a case, because we quite often for a board for citizens when they're reviewing our meetings, um, they hear the allegations and then they hear a brief discussion and then a decision, right? But we know on the inside that there's a lot more to getting to the point of being able to make a decision. And for you, each board member has their own method of preparing. And for you, just to give the citizens an idea, what does it look like for you when you're preparing for a board meeting where we're doing complaint reviews?
So, my approach to reviewing cases is fairly simple because of the density of the information. It requires more than a quick scan. Okay, it requires reading and a rereading. It requires really dissecting the information that has been presented. And again, I always want to figure out how can I position myself, understanding that I'm not that we're not at the scene, and we are receiving a recapture of what occurred. But how can I put myself at the scene to really understand and imagine what both the complainant and respondent are experiencing? And so that's what I want to do every time, is understand how can I visualize the scene as it occurred based upon how it has been transcribed to me,
Mhm.
because that will give me, um, as best as close to possible a front row seat to what actually happened. And so reading the information, rereading, dissecting, making notes of what I'm hearing to draw connections.
Mhm.
All of those are very important to being able to come to an appropriate conclusion on a particular case. Because at the end of the
And I
day,
know that,
it,
no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, at the end of the day, it's always critical to make sure that all parties have a fair and equitable chance to have their views and concerns heard.
That's and that is certainly true. I know that, excuse me, I know that, uh, in speaking with the investigators from time to time, that uh, at times, a board member may call to get additional clarification on on an incident or on a case, and um, I know that I believe a few times you even called to speak with the investigator about uh, making sure that you understood what was there or got clarification about what is there. And I want to say I appreciate that because that lets us know that our board members are digging into those cases the way that does justice for the process and does justice for the work that's being done. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. um, I know. Well, let me ask you this. We've asked you a couple of questions, but if there was something that you could say, well, you can say it because we're on here, but if there's something that you would like to say to our listening audience, I want to make sure I get this in, that you would like to say to our listening audience related to the ACRB. What would it be? What would you want to share with the listening audience outside of what we just talked about?
Absolutely. I would go back to the previous point that I raised pertaining to systems. And I would impress upon the listening, viewing audience and the citizens that the systems are in place and have been vetted in the interest of the community, those who live, work, play, and engage in the city of Atlanta. with our officers, whether they be of the Atlanta Police Department or corrections. Systems have been developed in the interest of the community and in the interest of any subject officers. I would encourage those who are listening, those who have an interest, to always keep that in mind, that said systems are in place to protect the community, support the community, to protect the officers, to support the officers, and to make sure that if there is a concern or an issue or a challenge, that there is an appropriate outlet to share said concerns or challenges. And I always, I tell my students as well that if there is a concern, there is an outlet for you to raise your concerns. And in this case, it is the ACRB. And if there's ever a time when you feel the need or encounter a situation that is questionable to you or of concern, that you have an outlet, an appropriate outlet to raise such concerns.
Thank you, Michael. I mean, that's very well said, because a part of being a citizen or a resident of Atlanta or any area is being able to engage government when you feel like you have been wrongly served. And I think some people miss that. We pay our taxes, we participate in a number of things in society, but knowing that you have a place to go to when government or someone from government has done you wrong, or you have a concern about their actions, is important. It goes towards that citizen empowerment. This is my government. This is my police department, and these are the things that I expect from it. And the only way that we can have government and police departments meet our expectations is to tell them when they don't, or bring up concerns so that we can better align the expectations with the realities of what's occurring. So we always like to send that message out, and I'm glad that you raised that. Melissa, did you have anything that you wanted to chime in on?
I dropped off for a second, so hopefully I'm not re-asking any questions for you, Mr. Turner, but definitely looking at the younger demographic, and being that you work with those students, and we know that it is such it's a resource, and it's a resource that not many of us know about. I wanted to know, what do you think would be a better approach, or the more ideal approach to get on campus and really interact with those students that are on campus, and letting them know, because we know majority of the time they're the ones who are dealt with, those sometimes unfavorable instances with police and those type of incidents. So what do you think would be a better way to get more young people aware of the program, and getting us more involved on those campuses that we have?
That's an excellent question. And, every day I take the opportunity to learn from the students that I serve and support. And I will say that they teach me a lot every day, a lot. Lessons, invaluable lessons,
Right.
lessons which you could never put a price tag on. And one thing that I would say in terms of reaching the youth,
Yes.
and is to simply meet them where they are. We know what our youth and young people enjoy doing, whether it be social activities, social activism, but meeting them in those spaces, because what we can certainly take from that is that we will be educated by them. They will school us
Yeah.
in terms of what we can do, how we can do better, what we can do more of. And I think one great step that has been taken by the ACRB in that realm is by the 18 to 30-year-old component of the board. Having that voice on the board is critical, because you know, if I only rely upon my years of when I was 18 to 30 years old,
Right.
you know, I'm bound to miss something.
Right.
So it is important to have that modern day voice at the
Right.
table,
Yeah.
because the decisions that are made are significantly impacting our youth.
Right.
And we have to understand and always take into account and never discount the impact of the youthful voice, the impact of the youthful knowledge, the impact of the youthful reach. Our young people, our youth have a significant reach, especially in the age of social media and virtual networks. So if we discount that voice or don't include that voice, we are going to miss out. And so that is one of my greatest takeaways, is the power and the impact of youth, young adults, and the voices and the reach that they have.
I agree. I agree. And I definitely think we do need to meet our younger demographic where they are. We have, you know, the ACU Center pretty much allowing us that opportunity to, you know, be right in contact with them in the heart of the city. So I definitely hope moving forward as we look to fill our second seat, because we do have someone actually from the from Clark. We have Miss Kaylin Strahan that did fill one of the seats. So we are working in that direction, definitely making sure they are heard. That is my group. That is still thankfully my demographic. I might max out, age out in 2 years or so, but I'm still within it. And it really makes me proud to see someone, you know, younger than me, but still in that demographic show the interest that she shows. And hopefully we can find that second person to fill that seat. Maybe it could be one of your students. We never know, because at this point, we definitely want to make sure we see someone in that seat this year. So it looks like we've reached our time there, Lee. I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything else to that.
Just wanted to say thank you again, but we can keep on moving.
Definitely want to thank you again, Mr. Turner, for showing up for us and really allowing us to really round out this full segment. It started off with Kaylin, and it started off with our newest member, and we've pretty much made our way through all of our board members, really just introducing you all to the community. That was the point of it, letting them know that the board members are community members that look just like themselves. They're not, you know, unattainable, super high statute politicians making decisions for us. There are people that, you know, look like us and are a part of our community. So we're so happy to have you, and we thank you again. Well,
thank you.
For everyone else, that is our time for tonight. We want to thank you so much for taking the time out to join us or listen in on YouTube. If you have any questions or if you would like to file a complaint, please send us a message on our website. We check that daily. It's the acrbgov.org, or you can give us a call at 404-865-8622. We're also on all social platforms, so you can look us up on there. And we are just looking to connect and hopefully, you know, meet a lot of you all for volunteer opportunities. And if you did have a complaint, we hope to be able to serve you and meet those needs. Again, my name is Melissa Jean Baptiste. Lee.
See, I'm trying to follow the script. I'm trying to follow the plan. And actually, I was supposed to say last, but I'm Lee Reed. Executive
are.
Director of the Atlanta Citizen Review Board.
And
with us tonight,
I think I was out of order
That's
and
okay.
did not chime in. I am Michael Turner.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining in, and we will see you again in another 2 weeks. That will be the January 25th show, and that'll be at 6 p.m. Same time, same link. Thank you all. Have a good night.
thank you. And thank you, Dr. Michael Turner, for sharing your
Thank you
time
so
with us
much.
tonight.
Awesome.
Have a good evening.